Into the waiting room came, "I reckon you's Miss Wharton. I'm John Fry, the stage driver, come to carry you back to Pleasant Hill. Professor couldn't make it." Well, I hadn't been carried. I was concerned. And as I got to the stagecoach, as he called it, it was really just an antique Ford. It had the marks of many mud holes. It had curtains for windows, and its black trim was very tarnished. Mr. Fry tucked me in to a space that he had nicely calculated amongst the packages and the parcels. He told that after the rain started in the fall, that the people really didn't come to Crossville much anymore, and that he would get their mail and their packages for him on trips. There were shiny orange packages in the back, mail bags in the front. "Reckon you're comfortable back there, Miss Wharton?" In all the space that I had, I was so anxious to see Teddy and get to Pleasant Hill. So out across the tracks we went, and out onto the road we went, and before I knew it, we careened into a ditch. I thought the packages were going to fall out. I was trying to hold on to the door, and with a dexterous twist, we went to the other side and back up and bounded out into the woods. I could see stumps and rocks and trees. "Thought we'd try the wood road," Mr. Fry said. Well, indeed there was a wood road. I couldn't see it. But road or no road, we bounced merrily along. We were 1 hour into the trip at that point. Mr. Fry said, "I hear folks say that you do some doctoring. Now, being that I ain't never heard of no woman doctor, I reckon they got that mixed up a bit." "No, sir. I am a doctor." "For women and children, then?" "No, sir. For anyone." Well, I ain't ever heard of no doctor woman. And for the first time in over an hour, he seemed to hush. I settled back in my confinement and thought on the first time I knew a woman that was a doctor. Aunt Addie. In St. Charles, when I was a little girl, I was prone to croup. Mother said I sounded like a rooster learning to crow out in the front yard. She would try and soothe me with teas and syrups and warm cloths. But when my cough got so bad, my father would call for Aunt Addie. I remember what warmth and strength she brought to my sick room with her doctor bag and her white little pills. Some of my proudest moments is when I walked down Main Street holding her doctor bag next to her. "Do you think you might want to be a doctor someday?" she asked. "Oh, do you really think I could?" You could really do anything you want to. And Addie had become a doctor at a time that she was very brave and it was strictly a male prerogative. Well, I really wanted to make sick people feel better. And I really wanted to bring beautiful babies into my neighbors' homes and bring strength and courage to sick rooms like Aunt Addie had brought to mine. On the eve of our departure to South Dakota, Aunt Addie brought my dad a book, the Home Doctor book. He put it on the shelf next to the Holy Bible, and it was always next to it in my heart. So many times we consulted both. It made medicine an accessible and an intimate art. So often and so earnestly we pored over those pages that the two books became as one in my mind. Well, after a few years of college and then a year of study in Europe, I found myself teaching at the Raw Young University of North Dakota. And when my engagement to my Carleton College sweetheart was broken off, I shuddered at the prospects before me. I was not going to be an old maid school teacher. There's plenty enough of those already. So I took that thought that I had tucked in Aunt Addie's stairwell out. I marched right into my parents' room in a fever of decision and announced, I am going to be a doctor. I was 28 years old. Well, after 4 years at the University of Michigan, I emerged with a degree of medicine that opened a magical practice to me. Although for 2 years, I sought in vain for an appointment to the mission field. I moved to Atlanta. I found a practice there that could grow, and I became very, very attached to the city and the people and their charming southern ways. Mother had joined me by then. Father had passed, and she was taking care of my house. One Sunday night, after church, I met an architect, Mr. Edwin Wharton. Now, Teddy is not very tall, wasn't very young, but I loved the way his face crinkled when he smiled, and he had such a keen sense of humor. And Mother delighted in cooking for him and adored him too. And shortly we were married. Yon side them lights, the hill, ma'am. Oh, they were brilliant lights to me.